Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The landscape of Earth had become a tapestry of ruin, charred remnants of a once vibrant civilization now blending into a dreary horizon littered with debris. The remnants of skyscrapers jutted out like broken teeth, while a thin haze of ash clung to the air, a constant reminder of the war with the alien invaders, those who had once known as literature and dreams, now reduced to mere shadows of what they could have been. It was in this dismal environment, where human and alien alike fought for survival, that Ethan found himself trudging through the muck of his own disillusionment. Ethan was a soldier, a man hardened by the chaos that had engulfed the planet he once called home. His stature was imposing, muscles taut from years of combat, but it was his eyes, hardened but still holding a flicker of hope, that told the true story. They had been trained to see enemies in every direction, yet beneath the surface, a thing called humanity still pulsed through his veins. His mind replayed the memories of his fallen comrades, their laughter echoing in his head, now replaced with silence that gnawed at him like a hunger he could never satisfy. On what seemed like another aimless patrol, Ethan's routine changed dramatically. Guided by the sound of muffled cries, he ventured deeper into the ruins, his weapon drawn and heart racing. There, amidst the shattered remains of a once bustling district, he saw her, a creature unlike any he had ever witnessed. Mira lay crumbled against a wall, her turquoise skin shimmering faintly in the dim light. The twisted remnants of a spear protruded from her side, a weapon of opportunity rather than intent. She was a member of the Zalari, known throughout the realm for their beauty and their lethal venom. Ethan had heard the legends, stories of a captivating beauty that could ensnare a heart but bring death in the same breath. Fear knotted in his stomach, but as he approached, the force of her vulnerability shattered any preconceived notions. Her eyes, a mesmerizing blend of silver and deep violet, locked onto his with all the fervor of a soul in distress. He hesitated, feeling the weight of horror and sympathy collide within him. The Zalari were not just creatures of myth. They were living beings capable of love, pain, just like him. For a moment, he contemplated simply pulling the trigger and ending her misery, but something in her gaze held him back. "Help," she whispered, her voice a low, melodic sound that contrasted with the devastation around them. The flickering light of hope glimmered in her eyes, urging him to step forward. "Why should I?" Ethan replied, surprised by the bitterness in his own tone, fighting against his instincts. "Your kind have done nothing but bring destruction to my people." "I am not like the others," she pleaded, wincing as another jolt of pain surged through her body. "I am one of the few who wish for peace. Let me show you." His heart raced, not just from the danger of the situation, but from the inexplicable connection forming between them. He lowered his weapon, stepping closer, driven by an unrecognizable desire to help, risking condemnation from his peers. As they locked eyes, the world around them faded, leaving only the urgency of the moment, and a choice that would change everything. Would he embrace the uncertainty, or retreat back to the safety of his preconceived notions? Ethan's reluctance began to give way to an odd curiosity as he knelt beside Mira, his heart pounding as he gauged the depth of her wound. She was so unlike the monsters he had been conditioned to fight against. There was a fragility to her that almost seemed to emit a soft glow amidst the dark desolation. The air was thick with uncertainty, but he could sense an innate strength within her. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, strained from pain yet tinged with a hint of awe. "The others, they would leave me to die." "I'm not like them," Ethan replied, his voice more resolute than he felt. He reached out, carefully assessing the injury before gently grasping the spear. "We've all suffered too much to let anyone die alone, even if they look different from us." Wrapping his hands around the shaft of the spear, Ethan took a steadying breath. Pain flickered in Myra's eyes, but she remained still, meeting his gaze with unyielded trust. With a swift motion, he pulled the spear free. Blood, vivid and glistening, spilled from the wound, and Mira gasped. A mix of pain and gratitude etched on her face. "I can't promise you anything," he said, setting aside the weapon, "but I'll try to help you." He quickly tore a strip from his tattered uniform, fashioning a makeshift bandage to staunch the flow of blood. You're going to need to rest. We will need to get you somewhere safe. Myra's eyes softened, reflecting not just relief, but a burgeoning connection. You're brave, human. Most would have killed me without a thought, she murmured, wincing as his hands brushed against her skin. Bravery is a luxury we can't afford anymore. Ethan tightened the bandage, feeling the heat beneath her skin, a fiery urgency settling in his chest. What's your name? Mira, she replied, the name rolling off her tongue like a whispered secret, resonating with an unexpected melody. And you are? Ethan, he said. They stayed that way for a short moment, two beings from opposite ends of a ravaging conflict, suspended in the intensity of the unspoken connection forming between them. Before long, he pulled away and glanced toward the dilapidated landscape. We need to move before they come looking for you. He offered his hand, and to his surprise, she took it, her grip surprisingly firm, filled with reassurance. With Mira leaning on him for support, they navigated the treacherous terrain together, each step fueling their growing bond. As dusk settled, they found a hidden alcove nestled between the ruins, a sanctuary amid chaos. It wasn't much, but it would provide cover for the night. Ethan settled Mira against the wall before inspecting the surroundings. Armed with only his instincts, he modified his surroundings into a makeshift shelter, doing his best to make her comfortable. Despite the uncertainty of their situation, there was a fragile peace in the air. Why are you helping me so much? Myra's voice broke through the stillness, drawing Ethan's gaze back to her. What do you want in return? Nothing, he replied, a bit more brusquely than intended. Just a chance to do the right thing. A thoughtful silence enveloped them, the weight of unspoken truths hanging in the air. A chance for what? She asked, her violet eyes searching his face for answers. A chance for peace, he said, surprised at his own fervor. We're just pawns in a game that's bigger than us. I've lost too much to pride. If we can find a way to change things, I want to be a part of it. That's rare, she said, her voice laced with respect and genuine intrigue. Your kind usually see us as threats. You're willing to look past the differences? It's easy to see people as threats when you're blinded by fear, he admitted, the bitterness creeping back into his voice. But I want to see human and alien as more than just a weapon or a monster. I want to see all of us survive. Mira smiled softly, a genuine warmth radiating from her lips. And like that, you see me as a person. Thank you for that. In my world, we often forget how to see ourselves as anything but a weapon. You've shown me a glimpse of hope. Ethan felt an unexpected swell of something in his chest, a mixture of admiration and a longing he couldn't quite articulate. Myra's vulnerability tugged at him, and despite the warnings of his own heart, he felt a path opening before him, though steep and fraught with dangers. The night wore on, and the faint sounds of the outside world faded into a melancholic lullaby. As Ethan sat next to her, his mind wandered through the sheer intensity of the circumstances that had brought them together. He wouldn't allow fear to dictate his actions. Despite everything, he was beginning to feel something profound for the alien he had saved, an inexplicable connection that surged between them. Mira rested her head against the wall, her eyes slowly drifting shut. You're different, Ethan, she murmured, her breath softening. I hope one day you see it's okay to let someone in. With that, she succumbed to fatigue, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts as the darkness enveloped them. Ethan found himself caught in a conflict he had never expected. As he watched her sleep, the glow of her skin framed by the shattered remnants of their worlds, he felt the gravity of the moment deepen. His heart raced in a way that had nothing to do with fear. It was something new, intoxicating and dangerous. His eyes drifted down to her lips, recalling the legends, the stories of what could happen if their two worlds collided too closely. A whisper of hesitation gripped him, but in that smile, that trust, he felt a thread of determination. They were destined for a harsh reality, but for tonight, they could find solace in each other. Morning came slowly, the fragile rays of sunlight filtering through the cracks in the decaying structures around them. Ethan woke to the sight of Mira, still nestled against the wall, her breathing calm as serenity danced on her features. A moment of peace washed over him, but it was fleeting, reminders of their precarious reality surged back into view with the starkness of a nightmare. He remained still, thoughts racing through his mind. How had they arrived at this point? A soldier and an alien, hiding together in the ruins of a broken city. A myriad of questions filled his head, along with a budding need to understand her, a need that felt dangerously exhilarating. But as he watched Mira sleep, he couldn't shake the deep-rooted fear simmering beneath. The legends his squad spoke of haunted him. If he dared to let their worlds intertwine, could he survive the consequences? Was he prepared to embrace the connection blooming between them, knowing that it could lead to his own demise? Her eyes fluttered open, and when they locked onto Ethan's, a spark ignited between them, one that eclipsed both fear and uncertainty. "Ethan," she whispered, voice still heavy with sleep, "you didn't leave." "Where would I go?" he replied, allowing a half-smile to break through his somber mood. "I can't very well abandon you to a world that sees you as a trophy." Myra's expression softened, a faint blush touching her cheeks. "You are kind for a human. Don't go making assumptions," he countered lightly, though warmth washed over him at her acknowledgement. "I've had my fair share of unkindness, believe me." Yet, despite the playful banter, tension loomed just beyond the surface. As Mira shifted to sit upright, a wince betrayed her as she clutched her side. Ethan's heart sank, instinctively reaching out to offer support. "Mira, you need to heal," he urged, concern overtaking the banter as he kneeled by her side. "We can't stay here long. They'll come soon." "I know," she replied, eyes filled with determination as she met his gaze. "But I can't stay hidden forever. I need to get back to my people. My kind are waiting for me." A shadow darkened Ethan's expression. "You're not going back to your people anytime soon. Not while they're hunting you down like prey." "No." Myra's voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "I have to face them. I belong with them. You don't understand the consequences of this incident. The colony is depending on me. Your people would see you as a traitor." Ethan shot back, rising to his feet, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You're risking your life for a cause that doesn't care for you. Do you really think they would see you as anything but a threat after you violated their protocol?" A tension crackled in the air between them, both aware of how unresolved their situations were, of the reality they faced. The fear in his heart mingled with a sense of protectiveness, urging him to keep Mira close. Yet the thought of her returning to the Zalari, a race resistant to change, gnawed at him. The concept of returning to a life where she was not safe felt unthinkable. "And do you think staying here solves anything?" she countered, rising unsteadily to her feet. "Hiding away will not save you or me. If we are to change our world, I must be able to return, to show them that not all humans are enemies." Ethan's brow furrowed, frustration tightening his chest. "You think you can face the consequences of them being hunted and captured? You're putting yourself at risk for what? A dream of acceptance?" Her defiance dimmed, her stance wavering as pain flickered across her features. "It's not just a dream. I have to hope for something. If we don't have hope, what do we have left?" He felt the raw intensity of her words, a flicker of their shared pain intertwining in the air. "I don't want to lose you, Mira. I can't afford to. The world isn't kind to beings like us." "I respect your feelings, Ethan," she said, softening. "But I can't stay here forever, hiding. I must confront my fate." "Let me help you," he insisted, swallowing his frustration. "There are places we can go to get more information about your people, to offer you a chance at parley." Mira sighed, uncertainty lingering in her eyes. "And what of your life? For all we know, your head might be on a pike for helping me." "Then we make a plan," he stated firmly, an urgency rising within him. "One that will let us both track down some semblance of safety. Maybe we can find a way for your people to understand that a different path is possible." Mira searched his face, weighing his words, her expression oscillating between hope and despair. Then, in a moment of clarity, she whispered, "You're willing to sacrifice everything." Ethan stepped closer, his heart pounding. "You're worth that chance." In that moment, the world around them faded into insignificance, eclipsed by the magnetism twisting their fates together. They stood on shaky ground, a human and an alien caught in the currents of a revolution neither could fully comprehend. The looming threat of their realities felt substantial, but it paled against the flicker of aspiration burgeoning within them. As he reached out, brushing his fingers against her cheek, a gesture born of both tenderness and caution, he felt the electricity zip through him. The heat of desire threatened to burst forth as their eyes locked, and for an instant, Ethan found the courage he didn't know he possessed. She leaned into his touch, a silent invitation that sent shivers racing down his spine. Yet the legend echoed in the back of his mind, a chilling reminder of the consequences tied to that touch, the poison that could seep into his veins, the death that lingered just below the surface. "Mira," he started, but the words died on his lips. Undaunted, she leaned closer, hesitation replaced by reluctant confidence, their lips inches away from colliding. "What if I chose to be free of that fate?" she murmured, and everything in him fought against the pull of her words and the primal call in his heart. Ethan felt his resolve falter beneath the weight of their proximity, and he yearned to fulfill that pulse of longing. "You don't know what you're risking, and you don't know what you're afraid of," she responded with unexpected tenderness, her breath mingling with his. Just as he felt himself tilting toward the unknown, a cacophony of distant voices pierced the air, a reminder of their reality, interrupting the fragile moment. Fear raced through Ethan, grounding him back to the world they inhabited. "They're coming," he said, stepping back. "We need to leave now." Mira nodded, determination gleaming in her eyes even as a hint of regret flickered across her features. "Then let's go, Ethan. Together." They moved in tandem, hearts pounding in unsynchronized rhythms, the potential for connection and conflict intertwining in ways they would have to face. In a world that sought to pit them against each other, they remained united by a hope hidden beneath layers of fear, yearning for something greater than themselves, a chance to forge a new destiny. The distant shouts echoed through the ruins, an unwelcome reminder of their vulnerability as they maneuvered through the narrow passageways of debris and crumbled concrete. Ethan's instincts kicked in, tension coursing through his veins as he led Mira deeper into the shadows, heart pounding with the urgency of their situation. "Can you walk?" he asked, glancing back at her strained expression. "I can manage," she replied, her voice unyielding despite the discomfort etched across her features. Still, he could see the pain flickering in her eyes with every step she took. They moved in silence, the threat of discovery looming like a storm cloud. Ethan had trained to fight, to face the enemy with unwavering resilience, but protecting Mira made him feel more vulnerable than any battlefield. The fragility of her existence illuminated a stark contrast to his own hardened resolve. He would not let anything happen to her. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed nearby, a sound all too familiar to Ethan, the clamor of armored footsteps, the unmistakable approach of soldiers searching for the alien. His heart raced. "We need to hurry." He tightened his grip around her wrist, urging her forward. Ethan pushed them through a jagged alleyway, desperately trying to recall the routes he had traversed during previous patrols, maps of destruction painted in his mind. His fingers intertwined with Myra's, the small connection fueling a protective instinct that burned brighter with every passing moment. "Ethan," Mira breathed, urgency coloring her voice. "We need to slip into the underground tunnels. They may not know of their existence here." He nodded, his heart racing in synchronization with her urgency. "Lead the way. I'm right behind you." As Mira led them toward a hidden entrance obscured by a tangle of overgrown weeds, the distant shouts grew louder. Ethan felt panic rise within him, chest tightening as he pressed onward. They reached the entrance, a gaping maw in the earth, and Mira crouched down, beckoning him inside. It was dark within the tunnels, a chilling silence enveloping them. Ethan barely had enough time to let his eyes adjust before Mira gestured to a narrow passageway that branched off. "This way," she whispered, squeezing his hand before breaking into a quiet sprint. They moved cautiously, the damp air clinging to their skin as they ventured deeper. The sound of thudding footsteps above pressed against the ceiling like a warning. Time was running out. "Ethan," Mira said, her voice hushed but urgent. "When I reach my colony, they need to understand who I am. If they see me with you, if they see us, we won't make it." he interrupted. "Keep that in mind. We need to convince them of our intentions." As they pressed on, a cavern opened before them, illuminated by faint bioluminescent plants that glowed softly against the rocks. Myra's fingers traced the edge of the luminescence, a sense of wonder blooming in her eyes. "These are rare. They're a sign of life underground," she murmured, her arm momentarily lifting the weight of their dire situation. Ethan couldn't help but smile at her fascination. "Yeah, nature has a way of surprising us." The fleeting moment brought warmth to their perilous circumstances, reminding them that beauty still existed even in the darkest places. But just as their connection seemed to deepen, they heard a distant rumble, the unmistakable sound of boots against concrete. The soldiers were getting closer. Panic surged through Ethan again, tightening the knot of fear in his stomach. "We need to move faster." Mira nodded, determination set in her eyes as they pressed forward. They navigated the twisting tunnels, Myra's knowledge of the underground paths guiding them. But as their escape seemed to come into reach, a sudden echo shattered the air behind them. "Mira, you can't hide forever." A deep voice called from the darkness, electric with malice. "We know you're down there." Ethan turned to Mira, urgency flashing through his mind. "We can't let them find us. We need to." Before he could finish, a group of soldiers burst into the cavern, armed and ready for a fight. Panic surged through Ethan. He shoved Mira behind him, body instinctively going into protective mode as the soldiers began to fan out, weapons raised. "Get out here, Zalari," the leader demanded, glaring at the darkness where Mira hid. "Mira, we can't fight them," Ethan hissed, adrenaline spiking through his veins. "We need to run." "I won't leave you," she whispered back, both fierce and frail beneath the weight of impending danger. Mira, arming himself with what he'd learned as a soldier, Ethan prepared to face the soldiers. He wouldn't let them take her. "Enough of this," the lead soldier barked, his voice filled with anger as he tightened the grip on his weapon. "Come out and surrender, or we'll take you by force." "Go," Ethan urged, adrenaline surging as he clenched his fists, prepared for a fight. "You have to." But before he could finish his thought, Mira stepped out of the shadows beside him, heart pounding in her chest. "I'm here." "What are you doing?" Ethan stared at her incredulously, fear surprising him as she stood beside him. "Get back. I won't let them take you," she declared, voice steady. The raw strength in her resolve filled him with admiration and dread, but he couldn't allow her to face them alone. "Trust me," Ethan said, urgency constricting his throat. "They won't spare either of us." "Whatever happens, just know I believe in you," she said, her expression fierce. "Damn it, Mira," he growled, heart racing as the soldiers began closing in. Ethan felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, time slowing as the soldiers prepared to charge. He could see the resolve in their eyes, the anticipation of capturing the alien member who had escaped them not long ago, and it fed his sense of desperation. "On my signal," he whispered, tightening his grip on their surroundings as he assessed the options available to them. Everything from quick escapes to distractions, their chance of survival sliding rapidly. Just as the leader's men moved closer, Ethan remembered the environment around him, the gleaming bioluminescence casting shadows over the wet surfaces. With a sudden plan sparked in his mind, he glanced at Mira, urgency replacing fear. "When I say go, use whatever chance you get." "What are you planning?" she asked, eyes wide. "Just trust me." As he shouted go, Ethan pushed her to one side and lunged toward the soldiers, getting in their way while simultaneously grabbing handfuls of the glowing plants from the wall, throwing them at the soldiers like firecrackers. "Distract them and run," he cried out, causing chaos to erupt as soldiers stumbled backward, momentarily disoriented by the bright glow that filled the air. Mira seized her chance, slipping through the haze as the soldiers tripped over each other, their shouts ringing out in surprise. Ethan could see the path clearer now, the entrance of the tunnels just beyond them. "Keep going," he yelled, adrenaline surging as he fought against the nearest soldier. He pushed back with everything he had, using momentum to drive the soldier backward before making a break for it, following Myra's retreat. The chase was on as they darted through the twisting passages, hearts racing, the sound of chaos echoing behind them. Ethan narrowly dodged rough hands grasping for him, relief flooding him as Myra's form barely illuminated by the glowing plants, leading them toward safety. In that moment, everything around them froze, the walls closing in with threats of capture. Yet within their escape, Ethan found a flicker of purpose, a commitment to protect Mira against all odds. Charging forward, through the veil of darkness and uncertainty, they pressed on, fighting not just for survival, but for the hope that lay ahead, a hope that was entwined with their fates. As they raced deeper into the tunnels, the flickering light of the bioluminescent plants guided their path, an eerie hope overshadowed by the dread of being caught. Ethan's heart pounded not only from exertion, but from an emerging tension that grew palpable between him and Mira, one born not only from the adrenaline of their escape, but from something far more intimate, a primal connection awakening within them. "Mira, we need to talk about what happens next," Ethan urged as they paused to catch their breath in a small alcove. The air was damp and heavy with uncertainty. She looked up at him, her violet eyes reflecting an understanding that sent a thrill through his veins. "You mean about my people?" she intuited. "They won't welcome you." "No," he admitted, swallowing hard. "But if we can reach them, perhaps we can persuade them that our worlds can coexist." "But there's something else," Mira said softly, stepping closer, her voice barely a whisper. "If I return, I will have to face the consequences of abandoning my duties. If they see you with me, if we're discovered, other outcomes may be inevitable, including mating rights." "Rights?" Ethan's pulse quickened at the uncertainty threading through her words. "What do you mean?" "In my culture, mating is a sacred act, deeply tied to our existence. If I claim you as my mate, it signifies my commitment to you and binds our fates together." There was a fire in her voice, a mixture of longing and courage that evoked a flicker of desire in Ethan's heart. "Are you saying that attracting such attention would make the situation worse?" he pressed, fighting the visceral reactions that surged within him at the thought. "It could lead to you being viewed as a potential threat," Mira clarified, the weight of her vulnerability grounding them both. "But there's no denying our connection, Ethan. I can feel it too." A rush of emotion filled the space between them, the urgency of their situation clashing with the undeniable chemistry that pulsed in the air. Ethan's gaze lingered on Myra's lips, reality constricting around their choice, a life or death gamble that rested heavily on the decision to pursue their bond. "Then we'll forge a path," he resolved, "whatever it takes." He reached out, cupping her face gently, the heat and tension swirling around them like an unstoppable tide. Behind her words lay a truth neither could ignore, the looming reality of their fate entangled with the daring prospect of mating. But just then, the echoes of footsteps shattered their intimacy, jolting them back to the present. "We need to keep moving," he urged, urgency snapping back into place. "There's no time." Mira nodded, that fierce determination flashing in her eyes, and together they pressed on, hearts racing, not just from the danger they faced, but from the intoxicating possibility of what they might become. As they emerged from the tunnels, the sun blinded them momentarily, bathing them in warmth and illumination. Outside lay uncertainty and danger, yet within the chaos, Ethan felt the undeniable bond tugging at their fates, a connection waiting to be embraced when the world allowed. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange hue across the ruins as Ethan and Mira emerged from the underground. Their hearts raced, but something deeper pulsed between them, a connection forged through fear, trust, and a burgeoning desire that had only grown since they met. "We need to find a place where we can connect and strategize," Mira said, scanning the horizon where remnants of civilization still stood. "But we must remain cautious." Ethan nodded, still acutely aware of the looming danger. They were not out of the woods yet. Determined to find refuge, they moved carefully through the wreckage until they stumbled upon an abandoned building, barely intact. With a sense of urgency, they slipped inside, the walls crumbling around them. As they settled into the dim shelter, the tension that had been building was palpable. Ethan turned to Mira, a myriad of emotions swirling in his chest. "Mira, about what you said," he began, unable to disguise the weight of their reality any longer. At that moment, Mira shifted closer, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that took his breath away. "I know what you're feeling," she said softly. "Mating is more than just a physical act. It's a commitment, a bond that we signify with our lives. I'm willing to take that leap with you." Ethan felt the gravity of her words, resonating with the raw emotion that had been building since their first encounter. In a world that placed barriers between them, they found a common ground, a longing that transcended the fear of their differences. "I'm scared," Ethan admitted, his voice almost a whisper. "But I want to be brave for us, to truly claim our fate together." Myra's expression softened, and a sense of understanding flooded the space surrounding them. "Then let's embrace it, Ethan. We stand on the precipice of a new beginning, one where love can flourish despite the darkness. We can show our people that unity is possible." With a flicker of determination igniting within him, Ethan reached toward her, cupping her face once more. The air thickened as he leaned closer, feeling the electricity charge the space between them. "Yes," he murmured. "Let's make this real." As their lips met, the connection ignited a fire within, every sensation heightened, intensifying the bond that encased them. It was more than just an act. It was a promise, an acknowledgement that they were willing to risk it all for a future together. When they finally drew apart, breathless and wide-eyed, the world around them seemed to shift, a new path unfurling before them. "We face danger," Mira said, breathing heavily. "But together, we can rise above it." Ethan nodded, a new sense of hope coursing through him. "Together," he affirmed, determination igniting in his gaze. As they emerged from the shadows of their hiding place, hand in hand, Ethan understood the magnitude of their choices. They would fight for acceptance, not only for themselves, but for a future where two worlds could unite. While uncertainty loomed ahead, the bond they had built transformed from the fear of death to one of profound love, a future worth fighting for, no matter the odds.